Chapter 8. A Surprise Visit from Mr. Badger. It was about tea time and Toad was watching cricket on the television. He had always enjoyed the game and, although he no longer played, he was the president of the village team and took a keen interest in all the county matches. He was just thinking of making himself some tea when the front doorbell rang. There were no longer any servants at Toad Hall. A woman came in to clean twice a week, and a number of the larger rooms were permanently shut. Toad lived mainly in the kitchen, which is warm and snug, and he had the television in the small breakfast room which adjoined it, which had lovely views over the gardens and down to the river. He kept the front door closed and always used the back entrance. So when the bell rang, he got up quickly and walked down the long, dark corridor, pulled back the bolts, unfastened the chains, and finally opened the large, iron-studded door. There, to his great surprise, stood Badger. "Good afternoon, Toad," he said briskly, and walked through the doorway and strode purposefully down the hall. Toad, initially speechless, shut the front door as best he could and scurried after him, apologizing for the state of the house and saying, "Why didn't you let me know you were coming?" and generally blabbering on and feeling a complete fool. Badger, who had been a great friend of his father and knew Toad Hall well, was about to open the doors of the drawing-room, but Toad got there first. "I don't use this room much nowadays. Come on down here." The fact of the matter was that Toad hadn't used the drawing-room for years. It was dusty and musty, and cobwebs festooned the curtains. Toad took Badger into the breakfast room, and having picked the newspaper off the floor and shoved his slippers under the table, offered Badger a seat. He hovered about, feeling very anxious and ill at ease. "Can I get you anything, Badger?" he asked. "A cup of tea? A slice of cake?" "No, thank you," Badger answered. "I never eat between meals. And, Toad, do you think you could turn that television off? I can't help myself think." Then he added, "It's a bit early to be watching the box, isn't it? I never put it on before 6, just for the news. There's never anything worth watching." Toad immediately switched off the offending set. He perched himself on the edge of the chair and tried to make conversation. "It's beginning to get warmer, don't you think? Some of the crocuses are out." "Only crocuses?" asked Badger in surprise. "You should see my daffodils, masses of them." Poor Toad, his daffodils were only just emerging. He was filled with shame for being such a poor gardener. "But you do go on, Toad," said Badger sternly. "It would be nice if you could listen for a change." "Sorry," said Toad automatically. He sat down meekly and waited for Badger to continue. "Now look here, Toad," he began. "The reason I am here is because there is something that must be discussed. I know that you have not been yourself lately and have been out of circulation, but the rest of the world moves on, you know. Things can't stop just because you're not feeling well." "No, of course not," said Toad. "Silly of me to think so." "So," continued Badger, "I am concerned that something should be done. I am sure it is what your father would have wished." "Oh, certainly," Toad murmured. "I'm sure he would." But he didn't have a clue what Badger was talking about. "You do know what I'm referring to, don't you, Toad?" "Well, not exactly," answered Toad. "Could you spell it out for me a little?" "Surely it's obvious. It's about you being governor of the village school." "Yes, I am," said Toad. "I haven't attended many meetings recently because—" he paused. "Because I have been unwell, but I mean to start going again soon." The village school was small, with only 2 classrooms, but had educated several generations of villagers. Now that people were moving away into the nearby town, the number of pupils was falling, and there was even some talk of closing it down. Toad, however, was committed to its continuation, and had spent many hours on the committee trying to raise funds and maintain standards. "Well, that's just it," said Badger. "Everyone knows that you haven't been to the meetings recently, and there are some big issues coming up." "Yes, I know," said Toad, "and I mean to go to the next one." He had, in fact, just received the minutes of the last meeting, and was about to write to the vicar, who was the chairman, to tell him that he would definitely be attending. "But you probably won't be well enough by then, will you?" asked Badger. "You're still looking a bit peaky. What does that counselling fellow say? Depression, wasn't it? Funny, I don't think I've ever been depressed in my life. Too much to do, I suppose. No time to sit and brood." Toad felt that Badger was looking at him accusingly. He started to feel angry, but this quickly changed to feeling miserable. He felt that Badger thought he was malingering, and he wished that he could pull himself together and be more like him. "So I've had a word with the vicar," Badger continued, "and he agrees with me. There's no need to worry yourself." "What has he agreed to?" asked Toad apprehensively. "Why, to me taking over your place as governor. "Not that I really have the time," Badger said sternly, looking at Toad over his half-moon glasses. "What with the bench and the district council, there aren't enough hours in the day, but one must do what one can." "But I am still on the committee," said Toad, feeling a bit stronger. "You know I am." "Yes, but if you resign for health reasons," answered Badger, "there need be no election, and the vicar said he would co-opt me onto the committee. So I thought, Toad, that you could write your resignation letter now, and I will take it straight over to the vicar, save you the trouble of posting it." Toad was in a turmoil. He was feeling so angry. He would have liked to punch Badger on the nose. How dare he? How dare he go to the vicar behind his back and try to get him removed from the school council? What a nerve! He really enjoyed being on the school committee. He felt that he had something to offer, and he always enjoyed organising the school's summer fete on the lawns of Toad Hall. But then he thought Badger might be right after all. Perhaps he ought to resign and let him take over. It would certainly bring tremendous energy to the task. But, thought Toad, he would bring other things as well. He would bring his temper, and his intolerance, and his ability to get people's backs up. I suppose that's the price you have to pay for Badger, he thought perceptively. But is it too high? "Well, Toad, are you going to write it?" asked Badger impatiently. Toad didn't know what to do. Badger seemed so strong and confident, and he felt so small and uncertain. "Perhaps I need a day or two to think it over," he said in a small voice. "After all, I have been governor for some time. I think I would miss it." "Yes, Toad, you probably would for a few days, but we must not be sentimental. Remember, it's what's fit for the school. We must not let our personal feelings get in the way of that." "Oh, no, of course not, Badger," answered Toad. "I hope I'm not being selfish." "I'll tell you what," said Badger. "Why don't you have a think about it and telephone me later this evening? That will give me time to contact the vicar and fix everything up." "I think," said Toad, summoning up all his courage, "I think I shall need longer than that. I will phone you tomorrow evening." Toad remembered that he was going for a counselling session next morning, and he needed Heron's help. "Very well," answered Badger. "You were always indecisive, Toad. I didn't get where I am today by being indecisive. See a problem, come up with a solution, make a decision. That's how I deal with things." He rose from his seat. "Don't bother to see me out, Toad. I can find my own way. And Toad," he added, "I should get to bed early if I were you. You're looking peaky. You take more care of yourself. Look after number one, that's what I always say." And with that he was gone. Toad had just enough strength to pour himself a stiff brandy and soda before he collapsed onto the settee.